Welcome to Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025. Your Day Weather Podcast brought to you by ConverseCountyTourism.com. Feel the energy of Converse County. Explore Douglas's Railroad Heritage, Ayers Natural Bridge, and the Jackalope Legend. Glen Rock boasts scenic trails, dinosaur history, and small town charm. Plan your visit at ConverseCountyTourism.com. Well, we're going to be into what is best described unsettled weather, mainly for folks that are along the Continental Divide and on the eastern side, as you'll see here in a moment. As you can see, yesterday, a little bit of moisture crept into the region. Sprinkles, virga, rain that evaporates before getting to the ground. Hopefully, we'll get a little more in the way of those raindrops that get to the ground in the days ahead, especially in some of the very dry areas. So showers, thunderstorms along and east of the divide starting today. And basically from today through a good part of next week, there's not one particular strong, widespread area of precipitation that's going to develop, but off and on chances for scattered showers and thunderstorms as a weak but very persistent upslope flow, for the most part, is going to be with us for the next 5 to 7 days. There'll be a couple of days of interruptions in that upslope flow, but that's going to introduce higher humidity air and spring shower activity, and the occasional thunderstorm is what we're going to see. Now, there will be a bit of a stronger upper low drifting across the region between Sunday and into early next week. That will bring cooler weather. That will bring some unsettled conditions again, with areas of showers and thunderstorms on the plains. Probably could even have a little bit of wet snow late in the weekend and early next week in some areas. We'll probably hit on that tomorrow. And we're also going to talk about wet islands and dry holes, because that's really what's evolved here over the last 90 days. Areas that have been doing very well with precipitation, areas that are not. So you get these islands of wet and pockets of dry, and we'll highlight those areas here in a moment. Beautiful colors there in Wheatland and across Platte County, Wyoming yesterday. Nice iridescence there from Jen Curtis of the high and mid-level clouds that are beginning to increase across the region. And then across the west, a nice lenticular wave cloud, a Sierra wave, forming there in Round Valley, California, indicating changing weather pattern upstream from us. And there it is, the upper level low there in Northern California this morning. It's not much of a system, but it's the start of a general area of low pressure that's going to hang around the western areas of the United States here in the days ahead. And that's going to bring some moisture to the Pacific Northwest, Central and Northern California, and also instigate changing pressure systems across the west, changing areas of atmospheric pressure, which will eventually result in that upslope pattern. We have this stationary boundary that's kind of setting up here across the Rockies out into the plains, a little bit of a cool front coming in from the north today. And all of this is going to just kind of help merge the moisture, as we'll see here in a moment, across the central plains. Satellite imagery shows a low up into the Gulf of Alaska here, and then moisture out ahead of that low that's in Northern California this morning. Nothing terribly impressive, but humidities are increasing not only in the lower levels, but the upper levels as well over the course of the next few days. We've been showing you this graphic here since the beginning of the week, where later this afternoon and evening, showers and thunderstorms are going to start to build and grow a little bit more to the north by later in the day, especially down there in southwest Kansas, the Texas and Oklahoma Panhandle region, but even there across parts of central and eastern Nebraska as well. And between 6 p.m. and midnight, we're going to have another little enhancement of showers and thunderstorms, especially there along the Colorado Front Range, extending up along and east of I-25 in pockets. And then that will continue into tomorrow morning. There's likely going to be a very small area in the southern Nebraska Panhandle and in northeast Colorado that could pick up some decent rain this evening and overnight tonight. Unfortunately, it's not a large area, but there will be a pocket of some decent rain there, as the showers and storms will continue into the overnight and early morning hours. We had talked yesterday about the risk for some of the thunderstorms in the region being strong. The yellow and the dark green areas show where a few thunderstorms may get a little bit stronger. Then on Thursday, a piece of that California low comes right across the central Rockies. That will instigate a deepening of the low pressure in the Great Basin with the low here, a surge of cooler air with the high here. So this is what we were showing you yesterday, that the clockwise circulation around the high, the counterclockwise circulation around the low is going to bring an east to southeast flow of air up against the front range. And you can see the pressure gradient, the lines of equal pressure with these solid black lines packed up against the plains and the front range areas. Now, west of the divide, this becomes a downsloping easterly flow. So that kind of mitigates any really good chance of moisture west of the divide, at least on the western slope of Colorado and back into a good portion of Utah. You can see over time how that moisture is drawn in. So this is by noon today. So you can see the green areas, the blue areas across the western high plains. And then by noon tomorrow, you can see the expansion of that moisture. Again, as we mentioned yesterday, the green and the blue doesn't mean it's going to rain on you. What it means is there's a high water content of the air. So you're going to get low clouds. You're going to maybe even get some fog, kind of soupy. The Interstate 80 summit between Cheyenne and Laramie is one of those areas where you can kind of get socked in for a little bit, and into the plains as well. By Saturday noon, we have a bit of a stronger upper level low. Again, it's just a persistent area of low pressure there along the west coast. So that will again feed moisture and instability across the region, upslope along and east of the divide. Then by Monday noon, so Saturday noon, Monday noon, that's where the trough makes its way, begins to move, and pushes a frontal boundary through the area. So later in the weekend and into early next week, we're going to see some mountain snow. We're going to see some areas of rain and thunderstorms on the plains and cooler weather. Again, we would like to see that low get cut off and meander around the Four Corners area for a few days, but not this one. It's going to get moving and move across the area, but it will create weather as it comes on by. When we take a look at the national blend of the modeling from today through Sunday, you can see the better rain, at least in terms of amounts, will be out in the plains where the deeper moisture will be. But you can see the strong definition between chances for showers and thunderstorms right up against the divide. Then on the western side of the divide, you're not going to get any moisture. But as these lows go across Northern California, the Pacific Northwest up here, you're going to see an area of measurable precipitation in these northern areas. This will be especially true. This area of moisture here, Sunday into Monday, will be shifting south and eastward. Now, I talked about at the beginning these wet holes and dry holes. This has brought happy faces to some, very sad faces to others. Unfortunately, this is what happens in this part of the country. You do not get even distribution of rainfall or snowfall. It never falls evenly. A lot of that has to do with our terrain, areas that are more affected by downslope than others. And you can definitely see over the last 90 days, this is the measured precipitation. You can look at the scale here at the bottom to see what it is. But what definitely comes up when you look at where the precipitation has been is that the further out you go into the plains, we have wet pockets and dry pockets. We've got a dry pocket here in southeast Colorado and southwest Kansas. We have this persistent dryness in western Nebraska and eastern Wyoming, but we also have these other pockets where it's just been a lot drier, where you just have not been able to get the precipitation over the divide and on into the plains. On the flip side, we've seen a huge improvement in the moisture situation in north central Wyoming around the Sheridan area, near the Buffalo area, out towards the near Gillette. Remember, these were the areas affected by the big fires last fall. Well, they've really seen a big improvement. And this is what's nerve-wracking. You get a big improvement here, right next to an area that's very, very dry. And also, when you look at the anomaly, you put the anomalies together, and then you really see the islands. You see the islands of the very dry conditions over the last 90 days in those areas, and the islands of wet here. What is it going to take for these islands of wet to start to get over the divide and out into the plains? Well, what you're going to need is we need one of these Four Corners lows. These lows keep moving through and not getting cut off. What we've got to hope for as we go into the last days of April and into May, that we get that, because then you start to draw that moisture in from the Gulf and the plains, and you get those slower moving storm systems. That's what's been missing. Hopefully we'll get one of those here, or two of those, or three of those into May and June. Otherwise, you're going to continue to see this pattern of islands of wet and islands of dry. Have yourself a great Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow.